Hello and welcome. My name is Michał Banasiak and this is the Institute of New Europe's series of talks within the Polish-Czech Forum project. Our guest today is Mr. Ciril Svoboda, Director of Diplomatic Academy in Prague, former Deputy Prime Minister and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Czechia. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. I would like to start our meeting with a short journey to the past, to the time when you were the Deputy Prime Minister of Czechia and also the Minister of Foreign Affairs. It was in the time when Czechia was under the process of joining the European Union, as well as Poland and as well as other countries from the region. How would you evaluate this period, almost 20 years, of the EU membership for Czechia, for Poland, for countries from our region?
It was an exciting time when we joined EU because it was the most robust enlargement. 10 countries joined EU, including your country, Poland, and my country, Czech Republic. And since the time, a lot of things have been changed. And of course, EU has been also changed because we have been faced some crisis. I mean, the migration crisis, later the problem with the war against Ukraine, and generally speaking, it seems to me that the Czech Republic and Poland, we have still a lot to do in harmony. Despite the fact that Poland is one of the biggest countries in EU, and my country is the medium size, but we are neighbors and we are sharing common interests. And primarily now, in the time of the war against Ukraine, we are sticking together. I mean, Poland and the Czech Republic. And what is obvious. We have now maybe permanent influence in EU because still there is a line, but not very, maybe not very strict, but line between the so-called former old member states and the new ones. And Poland is a leading country among the family of so-called the new ones. So that's why I am very supportive for the cooperation between Poland and the Czech Republic, because, as I said, we have a common past. I mean, also the occupation occupation of the Soviet Empire. So we have been occupied by the Soviet army, but your situation has been slightly different. But still, that's why we are neighbors and we have to do a lot in common.
Do you think that we, as countries, properly used this almost 2 decades of being the EU members?
Yes, and we have taken a very strong lesson. One is how important it is to stick together. It's very important. So despite the difficulties and maybe some differences and maybe despite different priorities, but generally speaking, mainly the war against Ukraine show us how it is important to stick together. So that's very important. And in my view, we will differ in the future, maybe in some priorities, but generally speaking, we will have to have in our minds and our souls that if there is a crisis, so the problems are to put aside and we have to stick together.
And how would you compare the European Union from 2004, 2003 maybe, and the current one? Because you mentioned that the European Union is changing all the time and we, of course, are seeing it every day. So how would you compare this, the same organization, but from 2 periods? And of course, I'm not asking for the size of the European Union, because now it's much bigger than 20 years ago, but the political meaning of it.
Yes. In my view, there are 3 differences. 3. The first one is that in the past, the EU member states sent to the EU maybe the politicians and the people of the best quality. And I am sorry, but it seems to me that today those who are in the European Commission or some other institutions, they are not the best ones. And we are in the time of crisis. We have taken lessons from COVID and from other very difficult times. And the lesson is that we have to be very careful after the elections to the European Union, what type of people are to be chosen and nominated for composing the new commission and some important position. You know, Joseph Borrell and the other countries, other persons. So I am sorry, but in my view, it is not the best European quality. That's one lesson. The second is that the process of liberalization is still marching on. And of course, that's obvious that this is the process in the society. I'm not following the line of the process, but this item is also a political dividing line in EU. We have now more conservative countries and maybe some less conservative countries. And maybe this is also the momentum which is to be taken together. And the last one is that the United States is interested in Europe. Of course, the war in Ukraine is a good example, but still we don't know who will be elected in the coming presidential elections. And the last lesson is that Europe has to be strong enough to protect the European interest, maybe alone, not even being supported by the United States or some other powers.
We have some pan-European challenges now, for instance, ongoing war in Ukraine, energy crisis, migration. Do you believe is it possible to find solutions for those challenges at the European Union level, or is it not possible because different countries have different priorities? For instance, we see Hungary and its politics directs to Russia, which is totally different than, for instance, Poland or Czechia.
Yes, you are absolutely right. So that's why I am still stressing that we have to find good people and very qualified, very experienced people to the European institutions, because yes, there are some differences, but if there's a deep crisis, European crisis, we have to stick together, because if it isn't the case, it will be easy for Russia or China or some other big countries to destroy power of not destroy, maybe to attack the power of European Union. So that's what is very important, to listen carefully. Every single country, we will differ in some priorities, but the substance is to see Europe as a concept which is profitable for all of us. So again, it is the problem of people. It is not the problem of the institutions.
While talking about Russia and about the ongoing war, I guess you agree that the diplomacy failed 1.5 year ago. And do you believe that it can be a solution? I mean, the diplomatic way. I'm asking you as a former diplomat and also as a director of the Diplomatic Academy in Prague. Do you believe that diplomacy still can be a useful tool while negotiating with Russia, or the only argument that Russia understands it's now power, military power?
In the very end, we will need diplomacy in the very end. But I don't know if it is the right time, because we have to support Ukraine, because Ukraine defends its own country against the Russian aggression. But every single war in the course of history ended in the three possible ways. One is one country defeats other country. So that's one solution. In my view, it is in this war impossible. Russia is not capable of defeating Ukraine, definitely not, and Ukraine. So it's not capable of defeating Russia. Russia is not ready to sign any capitulation. The second option is a frozen conflict. The frozen conflict is for Ukraine, in my view, the worst solution, because the war still continues, still does exist. Ukraine has no stable border, and it will be very difficult for Ukraine in the process of joining the European institutions, European integration process. And the very last one is some peace agreement. But when the time is right, it is up to the Ukrainians. So, and in the very end, we will need very strong diplomacy, because so in the very end, I believe that we need some type of so-called peace agreement, despite all the arguments against Russia, that Russia could break any commitments, which even if they are incorporated in the legally binding text. But we will, in the very end, we will need some type of diplomacy.
Do you believe that Ukraine, Moldova, Western Balkan countries can join European Union in, let's say, perspective of 5-10 years, or there are rather rhetoric and diplomatic gestures for those countries that we want to negotiate with them, we want to start the process of joining, of incorporating them to the European Union, but it's still too hard for them to be part of the EU in, let's say, 5-10 years, but we still should use this political tool to make them closer to the West than to, for instance, Russia?
Yes, there's a crucial problem. In my view, we have to negotiate, but I am very, very skeptical for joining EU. I mean, for Ukraine, mainly for Ukraine. So the example with the question of the grain export and Poland is a good example. It is not just a question of the political will, but you know, every single country is to meet the so-called Copenhagen criteria. And it is very, very, very challenging question for Ukraine, and the question of security and the borders, etc., etc. So in my view, we have to say openly, the process will be extremely long, not 5 or 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20, I don't know. But I think that it is correct to the Ukrainians to say the process is to be started, yes, but it will take very long time.
What about Moldova and Serbia?
Serbia is under the influence of Russia. I'm very skeptical that Serbia de facto wants to join EU. Serbia, I think, is to take all the advantages linked with the process of the accession. But in my view, Serbia is under very strong influence of Russia. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the problem. But it will be not correct for Ukraine to say some other countries, Moldova, some other countries, you are to be welcome, and Ukraine not. So maybe I am wrong, but in my view, it will take too much time from the accession countries' perspective. But we have to be correct.
Would you agree that the cooperation on the European level is now so hard because the political fights within the member countries is so fierce, maybe more fierce than ever?
You know, so because we have a maybe double or three-track problems. So I mean the Green Deal, security, migration. So there's a basket of problems, and it is obvious that we have to solve all of them. And at the very same time, every single government, including the Polish one and the Czech one. So the Polish representation is to be wants to be re-elected. So of course, all the parties, they have also to follow the meaning and the priorities in the countries. So this is a huge basket of problems, but still the process is marching on. So that's why I am devoted to the integration process. But I could imagine that some problems will be very difficult and will need very much time for being solved.
And are you among those who think that the European Union should take more and more responsibilities on its shoulders, or do you think that rather the member countries should decide on their own in as many areas as possible?
Yes, so I am against deeper integration. Yeah, so we have to introduce a deeper integration. It is not the case. But if we take seriously the competencies which are on the EU level, in my view, they have to be solved in the perfect one. Perfectly, so in very strong energy, and the other powers are in the hands of the national states to discuss now and to open the debate how to shift the powers from or competencies from EU on the member states or vice versa. In my view, it could be very dangerous, very challenging, and very complicated. Because we are 27 countries, yes. So it is not the Polish or the Czech perspective. We have to take into consideration the meaning of the Spain and Finland. So because it is a huge mistake just to perceive EU from our perspective.
Czechia, as well as Poland, is among those countries which have not adapted euro as a currency so far. Is there any debate about euro, about adapting this currency in Czechia right now?
Not, unfortunately not. I am, maybe I do represent the minority in my country, but I am devoted to Eurozone. Not because of Europe, it's a problem. We can, I can imagine some economic problems, but politically, Eurozone represents so-called qualified majority. If Eurozone decides something, we have just to salute, to say, yes, we will follow the will of Eurozone. And Slovakia and some other countries, even the small countries like Croatia, Baltic states, they are at the table when the decision is taken. So good example is Poland, is Slovakia. The only, I am stressing, the only party, it was Kotleba party, which wanted to leave the Eurozone, is not capable of crossing 5%, is out of the parliament. Every single party, even in Slovakia is smaller than the Czech Republic and Poland, even in Slovakia, every single party is saying, yes, we have to stay in Eurozone. Because of being in the table when the decision-making process is going on. So, and my country and Poland, we have just to follow the decision of Eurozone.
You said that you are representing probably minority. So why Czech community and I guess also politicians are against joining the Eurozone? I'm curious about that because we from time to time have this debate in Poland as well.
Yes, you know, we were well prepared for joining Eurozone with Slovakia. But the government was in the hands of Eurosceptic party, ODS, Civic Democratic Party. So the Czech government decided not to join. Since the time the sometimes the question is put on the table, but that's the meaning of the society. In my view, having had very long experience, if there are some strong politicians who are saying, no, there are many benefits for joining Eurozone, of course, there are some costs we have to pay, but generally speaking, we will be in the hard court of the decision making. So I think that the meaning could be changed, but you need some charismatic leading persons saying, yes, we want. But the Czech political elite, including the prime minister and the government, they are saying, yes, we will join Eurozone when it is profitable for my country. And my answer is, when? Today or tomorrow? What will happen next year? So it is a political decision to be in the hardcore or not to be, but just to dream. So when the right day is to come, I don't know the right day. My answer is tomorrow is the right day.
I would like to ask about the Czech ideas on the energy transformation, because Czechia was among those countries which were very much dependent on the Russian resources. And how the situation looks now, and what are the plans for the coming years in that area?
Yeah, that's a good lesson we have to take from your country. Because Poland is a good example of being well prepared for the diversification of the energy sources, and of course, so it was a huge mistake to depend on the Russian delivery nearly from 100%. It was a huge mistake. So we are in the process of diversification, but who knows what will happen in Algeria or Qatar or some other countries, because there are also in certain ways some unstable states. So my proposition, I'm still repeating also on the Czech TV and Czech radio, is of course to make a huge diversification, but not too close. Definitely any pipeline. So in the very end, when we are after the war, of course, not too close the possibility of delivery of the gas from Russia. You know, Ukraine is now still depend on the Russian gas, because what will happen within 10 or 15 years? You see the situation in Algeria. Bouteflika was the president. It was a stable state. Bouteflika was put aside. He was forced to resign. Now he died, and now the group of generals are now leading Algeria. Who knows what will happen? I don't know, tomorrow. So we will have to diversify the resources as much as possible.
I would like you to briefly sum up I started with the European Union, but now I would like you to ask you to briefly sum up the bilateral cooperation between Poland and Czechia in the last, let's say, 20 years. Partly you were responsible for building them, partly not. So how would you briefly sum up them, and what do you think can still be develop, can still be do better, can still stick our countries together, as you mentioned in the meantime?
Generally speaking, we have very friendly relations. Maybe the problem with the mine of Turów, yes, but from the course of history, that's nothing. That's just one example. And I have met some very nice Polish politicians. I think the good friend of mine, the former foreign minister Rotfeld, some other persons are very capable and very cooperative. Of course, between us, there are maybe some differences. Maybe Poland is more conservative than the Czech Republic. We are very, very liberal, but we have Slavs. That's also important. We do understand each other when we are speaking slowly. We do understand each other, and we have a lot of common in the history. So it will be a huge mistake not to be concentrated on improving the relations with Poland. Poland is also very important for us because Poland is a big country in the European Union, and Poland is playing a very important role in NATO also. Yes, I am. So when I'm open, so I am not in the fan club of 3 Seas project, because in my view it is too much. Even to invite the countries from Balkan. So, in my view, it is just a vision. It is not, in my view, very realistic plan. But under the umbrella of NATO and EU, we have to consult. We have to consult, and if there is a chance to harmonize a position, to do that.
And what about, for instance, connectivity? This year it was kind of a boom in the touristic meaning. Many Czech people decided to go to Poland instead of, for instance, Croatia, which became much more expensive than in the past. So do you think that maybe in the area of connectivity there is a place to improve?
Yes, of course, of course. Many Czechs are visiting Poland. And even your prices are better. The accommodation, many people are now realizing that the Baltic Sea is a nice sea, and the Poles are very friendly, and it's nice to spend holidays in the north of Europe, and we have to support this. This connectivity, because the traditional holidays in Croatia is, I think, there's overcrowded, and it is maybe old-fashioned stay because it was in the past and the communist regime. So it was for us the only chance to spend the holidays at the sea in the former Yugoslavia. But yes, I do support very much, and from the bottom of my heart, so the connectivity and the interaction between the Czechs and the Poles. Yes.
Thank you very much. The guest of Institute of New Europe was Mr. Ciril Svoboda, Director of the Diplomatic Academy in Prague, former Deputy Prime Minister and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Czechia.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I wish you all the best, and maybe we'll meet in the future. Thank you, all the best.